Welcome to another episode of Centre Court. All thanks to Alexis and Berwick, who are here for you, and TAC Ditch the Distractions. Ash Brazill, you are all the way in Melbourne, and I'm all the way up here in Brisbane, locked down in hotel quarantine.
About to say, your background did look pretty different, B. It looks a lot smaller than the last place.
I know.
How you going?
I'm not too bad. Look at this. I'm just literally in a tiny little hotel room. So I've got all my lighting working just so I can make out and you can actually see me. It's going
of lighting. It's always on point. Though I just want to, you have sent me a few sneaky videos of the exercise area. Like, let's just have a look at this. But I want to know, is it just a walking track or can you run? Like, there's one point I'm like, I think Bee's got a sweat up here. Is she running? Is she allowed? What's the go?
Well, yeah, so you can walk around this area, which is probably bigger than what I thought, but it's all undercover, so there's no sunshine. But you can do whatever you like. Everyone is so creative. Some people are walking laps for an hour. Other people are doing their own little hit sessions in the corner, and some people are running around. And I'm not a runner because of my knees from playing for so many years. But even I'm starting to run around just because it's good to just have a bit of a sweat and get out of the room. And I'm day 5, so I've got 9 days to go.
Well, the kids on the track look like they're having a blast. The adults don't look too enthused, but the kids think it's awesome. So good luck. What day are we at?
Yeah, so we're day 5. But for me, do you know what the probably the most advantageous thing is? I've become very good friends with all of the police that are working. So we're not allowed out of our rooms unless a police officer comes to the door. They have to escort you downstairs and then they have to escort you back to your room. So what I've done is they come and get me in the morning because they know I love to train in the morning. And I've just become mates with them, which makes life a whole lot easier because they make sure they get you out of the room plenty of times a day so that you don't just go crazy being cooped up in here.
I wouldn't say that too loud, B, because there has been a little bit of discussion about hotel quarantine in Melbourne being too friendly with the security guards.
So it's not like that. Not like that at all. Not like that at all. I promise you. But
she's okay,
I must admit, what was that?
She's okay, Mark. If you're watching,
yeah.
Okay.
Mark, I promise. One thing I was going to say, though, big shout out to the Vixens girls because I've got had some deliveries since I've been here, which has made my life so much easier. And the Vixens girls bought me, Kate Maloney had her coffee Nespresso machine that she bought up from Melbourne for their quarantine. So they dropped that off. So I've got that here.
The
snacks. Yeah. So it's made, I think, just trying to eat a little bit healthier and exercise has really made the time go a little bit quicker. And we get to do this anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. And how good's that Puma bag? Do you get to keep that or is that one of theirs?
It's one of theirs, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep it in my luggage. What were you loving about the netball over the weekend, Braz?
For me, it was probably just the upset against Vixens versus Firebirds. You know, I think that was probably one of the games that I loved of the round. And I actually think it's a good thing for the Vixens to have a loss now just to give them a little bit of a boost heading into finals. What about you?
Do you know what? I watched the Giants game and to see them lose and then now they're not in contention to play finals. I just feel like that team has got so much potential. They just haven't been able to put it together to be able to play like we know that they can. So that game, but also, the Firebirds Vixens. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that game a whole lot more because it was more than just what happened on the netball court for sure. So let's get to the agenda. Thanks to TAC, when you're on your phone, you are driving blind. Ditch the distractions. The first thing I want to throw at you, Braz, is Chelsea Pittman and the discussions that Adelaide Thunderbirds have not offered her a contract for 2021. For me, I think she's been a real linchpin in the Thunderbirds this year. Her experience has shone through. She's really helped the younger players in that team just, get used to Super Netball level by having her out there on court. Do you agree? And were you surprised at this?
Yeah, for me, I was surprised because I think Adelaide are building something. I think the last couple of years, they've really struggled and you can tell they're trying to keep a group together. They're building somewhere. She's the captain. She's, in my opinion, their strongest wing attack. And now they're getting rid of her. So, yeah, it's a tough one. And I think it just shows you what this league's like now. Like 2020, we've been able to see so many young talents. Like that maybe they're not thinking next year, maybe they're thinking the next couple of years. But yeah, I was definitely shocked to see it come out, and to come out when it did. I thought maybe they would have had that conversation with her after the next round when they can't make finals. So to know going into 2 more games, she found out. I think it's a big call.
And Super Netball have come out and said the contracting period, or the details around the 2021 contracting period, will be released later in the week. Now, I think this is a really tricky time for all players, because if you're on a 1-year deal, you don't really know what's going to happen. And your contract discussions at the moment, which are allowed to happen between you and your club, not with other clubs right now while the season's still going on. But at the moment, it's all happening while you're in a hub in Brisbane and you're around your teammates all the time. You're living in apartments with other players. You have not, I imagine you don't have a lot of privacy to be able to have these conversations, because usually it's a no-go, isn't it, for players to discuss their contracts with each other. It's more you discuss it with your manager or whoever you are negotiating with, but you don't often share that information with other players because it really can distract a team.
Yeah, and that's something, like, I hate contract period. Like, I would rather sign a multi-year contract just so I don't have to do it year after year, because it's so nerve-wracking. And you start questioning, does the club value me? You're looking at, like, what you think you're worth, what they think you're worth, and you're fighting for yourself, because you're not just, like, we're not male athletes where, you know, you can afford to not have a job. Like, this is something where you're thinking about, how am I going to support my family? I'm living in a different state. So yeah, you start questioning yourself as an athlete, what you're worth to the club. And to be up in a hub, yeah, I just couldn't imagine it. For me personally, I would not want to do it until my season was over. And players are different. You know, some players want to know so they can start planning ahead. But for me, I would hate being in a hub.
One thing I do love, though, is I love that Chelsea put it out on her own social media. So she made the announcement herself. She took it into her own hands and her future to say, you know what, I just want to put it out there to other clubs potentially who may be interested. Because don't forget, Chelsea Pittman not only plays for Thunderbirds, she also plays for England. She's in the English team. And for her, it's really important that she can have, I guess, this preparation if she still wants to be playing for England as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, B, because that's something that I was really proud about what Chelsea did, is she put it out there before Adelaide did. And yeah, like, that takes a lot of courage, because you're now putting yourself out, you're now vulnerable, and, you know, you don't know if there's going to be another contract coming your way, but she's standing up saying, nah, this is not a retirement. I don't want to stop. So please pick me up. I'm happy to do anything. And I think, yeah, good on her. It takes a lot of courage, and I'm actually excited to watch this journey. Now,
this is a question without notice, which I always love throwing at you, but what club do you think would need a Chelsea Pittman in their team next year?
Oh, Bianca, oh, come on, mate. I need to think about this. You know, the one thing I do like about Chelsea is that she's a bigger body wing attack. Like, it's not about the speed for Chelsea. It's all about strength. So when I think about playing her, it's so different to how I'm preparing each week, because I'm training against the 2 Browns. So I'm no longer worried about speed. I'm trying to make sure that I know how to defend someone on the body, and I know that she's smart. So when she's got the ball, she might be looking this way, but the ball's going that way. So you have to be switched on the whole time. I can't tell you what team she'd go to, but I think just her performance alone, yeah, she would be someone that would be a pretty strong wing attack to get.
Nice way around that question, bro. I like it.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and I really hope she does get picked up, because, yeah, I think she deserves to.
Yeah, I do too. I think she's certainly earned her stripes, especially in the last couple of years. And I think she's so important in a team to be that different wing attack, to be that different player, and the experience. You just can't buy experience. So fingers crossed for you, Chelsea. Well done, I think, on how you've handled it, and we hope that you land in another team for season 2021. Speaking about contracts, there's a lot of controversy going on at the moment around the Australian captain, Caitlin Bassett. We know for the Giants, she's got very, very limited court time. We've seen her riding that bike on the sidelines every single quarter, occasionally getting on. I think the stats actually show that when she does get on the court, though, they do win. But Julie Fitzgerald has opted for the Kira Austin and the Joe Harton combination, which is a good combination. We have to say that. But Caitlin Bassett says the super shot is not for her. And there's a lot of talk about what she's going to do next year. Will it cost her spot in the Australian Diamonds? What is going to happen with Caitlin Bassett, Ash Brazill?
I don't know, Bianca. And I really feel for Bass. Like, there's not just all this media around her, but she gets slammed on social media all the time. And I feel for her. Like, that would be so hard to deal with week in, week out, especially when you're not getting on court. Because I think one way to deal with it is just being able to get on court and prove people wrong. But when you're not having that opportunity, that's just going to be playing in your head again and again and again. And it doesn't look like it's going away. But my question is, where has this come from? Like, Bass, I don't think Bass has made any statement about going to New Zealand, but that's now in the media. Is it being leaked? Is this something she wants out? Is someone just assuming this? Like, again, we've talked about Bass from, I think, week one now to now. I think, yeah, where are these comments coming from?
And also, we must remind everybody too, she's actually contracted for the Giants until the end of 2021. So she has a contract next year. So whether she wants to go to New Zealand or whether that's all just rumours, I think the first interesting part is going to be, will Giants let her out of her contract to go and explore other options, or will they say, no, you are signed here? The thing that I really feel for Bass about is that the super shot came in at the last minute with no discussion with the playing group. It was thrown into the league. Everyone's had to adjust accordingly. And for someone like her, who has been a huge asset for her entire career, both for the Diamonds, for Fever, for Giants, for Sunshine Coast Lightning, she has been that pivotal goal shooter that every team has needed. And so now all of a sudden it's all been thrown into disarray for her. She hasn't even really been given a chance to try the super shot. We don't know that if she can shoot it or not, really. Like, everybody, we see the Vixen, they hardly use it if they don't have to. So it is an asset still to have a tall shooter. And the Diamonds need Australian shooters. They don't have many to pick from. So I just think it's a really tricky one right now, that if Australian Diamonds can't have Caitlin Bassett because she hasn't had any prep time and she's not in form, what are they going to do? Can they rely on the youngsters to really carry the Diamonds through and keep that #1 world ranking?
And it is a tricky one because in international level, there is no 2-point shot. So we could have these players that can shoot from all over the court, which I think is great. But in the end, I think we see it week in, week out. The best pass is when you can get it to the shooter under the post. And when it comes to international, that's the way it's played. So will we be losing that? How are we going to, if Bass is that goal shooter for the Diamond still, how do we get her performing week in, week out if she hasn't played a whole season?
And especially as a shooter, it's such a confidence position. And if she's had a whole year where it's been very hard for her to even build her confidence because she hasn't got the opportunity, it's not as easy as it is, I think, for other positions on the court to step out there for the Diamonds and just switch it on like that. You do need prep time. You do need to be able to prepare. And we have heard now that the Constellation Cup won't be happening in 2020. There will be 2 Constellation Cups happening next year in 2021, which I think is a smart move. It also, I think, probably can help Caitlin Bassett out a little bit and giving her a bit of breathing space and a bit of time after the season, just to have a break from netball and get away from all the gossip and all the noise, and hopefully just get herself in a position where 2021 is going to be her year again.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And just like Chelsea Pittman, something I think everyone will have their eyes on.
Totally. Well, that was the agenda. Thanks to TAC Ditch the Distractions. It's now time to get to the nitty gritty. Thanks to Lexus of Berwick, who are here for you. Contact the team and visit lexusofberwick.com.au. Braz, we need to talk about Indigenous Round. We mentioned it last week that we thought how great it is that we're seeing all the dresses from all the teams, that we're seeing a lot of celebration around our Indigenous community. However, I don't know what happened on the weekend, but it really has shone a light on, yes, we're doing something, but gosh, we need to do a hell of a lot more in this space. And we need to talk about Queensland Firebirds taking on the Melbourne Vixens. It was a great win by the Firebirds. They really did shock the Vixens, and they came out with a win that probably none of us were expecting. But what happened was the celebration of Jemma Mi Mi being the only Indigenous player in the entire league. She has been the face of the league this week in celebrating, in wanting to talk to her about it, in interviewing her, in getting her in photo shoots. She has been absolutely everywhere. And then we saw the Firebirds not play her at all, not even for 1 second on the court in Indigenous Round. Braz, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about this, especially as a current player? How did you feel when you saw that she wasn't put on the court? Was it a right call?
Well, initially, like when I saw the starting 7, I was shocked just not to see Jemma out there, just because of all the hype that's been around Jemma and how important this round is. And we all know when it comes to footy, when the Indigenous players play in the Indigenous round, magic happens. It's like they find this little bit extra. And I was excited for that. I was so excited to see how Jemma would perform in that game. And then obviously she didn't play, but you then hear about the Queensland statements and how I guess they are. And as an athlete, when a coach talks about game plan and trust and process, and it's not just about this year, it's for the future, I understand it, because that as a player, you just have to back it in. You have to trust what the coach says, trust what the coach does. But then I put myself in Jemma's shoes, and I'm not Indigenous and I can't talk about that. But I just think if this was an LGBTI round where all week in the lead up, me being gay and having to represent that and do lots of talk, lots of media for the whole week lead up, and then for me not to get on court, I'd actually be embarrassed. So I'm feeling for Jemma now, not just because not getting on court, but now there's all of this talk about it, and it's kind of taken it away from the round.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I can imagine even within the team, it would be really hard for Lara Dunkley, who was on the court, and obviously right in the last minute, she went down with a cramp and stayed on the court when Jemma could have gone back on or gone onto the court. It's just embarrassing for everybody. And I just hate to think that Jemma feels like she's been used during this round to promote it and to be put out there. Take a listen to this. This is the statement the Firebirds put out. Our team selection for Sunday's game was part of our strategy for the season and was made collectively by the coaches and the leadership group based on performance. The decision not to put Jemma on the court was the right one from a game strategy perspective. However, we misread the community expectations and the significance of Jemma's court time in the game in this round. What do you make of that?
For me, it's not really about the statement itself. It's about the way they did it and the time they did it. Putting a statement out like that, which has made the netball world blow up, putting it out at 11 p.m. for me just isn't good enough and is just a rookie error, really. Like, if this meant so much to them and you could see how much it's affected the community, wait a couple hours, just wait to 9 a.m., put it out when it's newsworthy, because, putting something at 11 p.m. just doesn't really mean that much, and it gets lost with all the other news in the morning.
Absolutely. And I want to say to the Firebirds, you can make this statement to Netball Australia. Where is your statement? We've seen Beryl Friday do an incredible and a shocking interview with Sue Gordian around how it was for her as a player. And since that, and yesterday, I was reading these stories on Twitter from past Indigenous players some that I've played with, some that I've played against, and hearing their experiences within our game, it is just really hard to hear. And I just want to say sorry to them, because I feel like I wish we could go back and change things for them to make sure that our sport is so inclusive for everybody and that everybody gets a fair go. I think we need to hear more. So to all the Indigenous players, past and present, please keep sharing your stories, because I think it's important that we listen to them, we learn from them, and that we make sure our sport learns from this moment on about what we should be doing to be more inclusive. So Netball Australia and Super Netball, you need to lead the way on this. You need to make a statement and you need to actually action it. You can't just sit still and hide. And so at least the Firebirds came out and said something, but Netball Australia and Super Netball, you need to say something on this matter.
And I think you're right, B, by saying, like you wish you could do something more, but when we go back in time, it's not about, we can't fix it. It's about learning and hearing those stories. And then from now, let's move forward. Let's change that. Like I'm blown away by all the stories, and I've been privileged to play with Josie Jans Dawson, and she's I guess, for our team back at FIBA, she was always telling stories, and not just her own, but wanting to know other people's stories. And story time for me became so big when I was at FIBA, and I just loved hearing everybody's story. So I think the more we hear that, then enough finding excuses. Let's move forward and let's just stand up and be human.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Braz. And our thoughts go out to Jemma Mi Mi. Let's hope that she has an awesome game this weekend, gets some court time, gets to play netball for the fun of it and why we all started when we were little girls. That was the Nitty Gritty, all thanks to Lexus of Berwick, who are here for you. Let's now get to Brazilliant. I'm going to throw it all the way back to Melbourne for you, Braz.
Thanks, V. Catching it over here. So for me this week, the Brazilliant Award, I know we've talked about the Indigenous Round and the controversy around it, but for me, I just want to talk about Marcia Ella-Duncan. And for me, I have just learnt so much over these last 4 games. What I love is that Channel 9 did a piece with Marcia, and she talked about her story, her journey, even her brother playing football and just what it was like. But for me, what hit home is how she created history by being the first Aboriginal woman to play for the Australian Diamonds. And I just felt so proud of her for doing that and being able to just talk about it. But what shocked me is that she then went to say that she's also the second last. So there's only been one ever player after her to do that. But what I loved about it was it created conversation in our household. So the first time I watched it, I was in just shock about, one, she was beautiful the way she spoke, but Brooke and I just started asking each other questions and wanting to know more. And for Marcia and to Channel 9 for doing that, thank you for creating that conversation in our household. And I really hope it happened in other households over this weekend.
I am sure it did. The power of storytelling, hey, the more we hear people's stories, the more it makes us think about what we can all learn from it and what we can make sure doesn't happen again in the future and that there is more opportunity. So I agree with you. I thought it was an awesome way to start off the coverage in Indigenous Round. Great job, Braz. Okay, Braz, it's time for the final say. And I'm going to start us off because my prediction is that Jhaniele Fowler is going to shoot over 1,000 goals this season, just in 2020. Like, take a listen to her stats so far. 741 goals she's at the moment. She has got possibly 4 more games if they can make it all the way through to the grand final. And she's averaging about 60 goals a game. So I'm going to call it now. She's going to shoot over 1,000 goals this season. Isn't that epic?
That is nuts. And like, that is some Tony Lockett kind of thing. I want the whole crowd just to run on court when she does that. And
yes.
That'll be unbelievable.
Right. Now I'm going to hand it over to you, Braz, because I can hear somebody wants to get amongst your final say.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to let him hijack this soon talk because he's not liking Brooke. Oh, look who's here.
Oh, hey, Louis.
Bianca.
Look at him.
My final say, just because I've got a scream.
Oh,
come here.
all that pressure of the tipping. Look what it's doing to him.
His mum's phone. How bad is parenting? I think little Louis will get 4 out of 4 tips this week. He's doing really well. He's sitting on, I don't even know what the percentage is, but I know it's definitely better than me. He calls all the shock wins. So I think, Louis is going to get 4 out of 4. And let's wait and see what they are.
And we know Louis' tips have got quite a cult following now on social media. Everybody's waiting to see what he tips before they go out and play.
Oh, he's a hero. Like the Adelaide girls, they message me to make sure I've got the tips in early enough just so they can see if he's tipped them. And more times than not, he picks Adelaide. So I don't know if pink's his favourite colour or he actually does like the Thunderbirds.
Well, good luck with the tipping this week, Louis. Great to have you part of Centre Court. I can't believe it's taken us this long to get you on camera. Make sure that you keep annoying your mums because I'm sure you're very good at that too.
Throw it away.
Well, thank you so much, Braz. It was, I think, a great episode of Centre Court because Just so much going on in the netball world. I can't wait for the last round. And then how exciting is it going to be, the final series in the Super Netball?
Oh, can't wait. And then we've got finals. So looking forward to the weeks ahead.
Now, who's your premiership tip? I'm going to go put yourself out there. Who's your premiership tip right now?
Eva.
Well, I'm going to say Vixens. And I really, really am hoping that that's how the grand final ends up, those two teams. That was Centre Court for another week. Thanks to Team AC. When you're on your phone, you are driving blind, ditch the distractions. And Lexus of Berwick, who are here for you. Contact the team and visit lexusofberwick.com.au. We'll see you next week, and I'll still be in quarantine.